Hello, Michael here. You probably know from watching some of my other videos that I had some health issues several years back, still pretty much fighting with that, and it was pretty much centered around an ulcer and an H. pylori bacteria in my stomach and gut, which had colonized and really wreaked havoc in my whole body. And so I had to revolutionize my whole diet when this happened, and I cut out white flour and white sugar and soy, which are things that H. pylori feeds on. So I stopped putting into my body things that were making my ulcer worse and were feeding the H. pylori, and I started putting into my body things that weren't so acidic in my stomach and didn't create so much acid in my stomach, and then also things that killed H. pylori. And so I did a lot of research and came up with this soup that I make, and I usually make enough to last me about 3 days because I eat it twice a day. And so anyway, so this is going to be a video on how to make that soup, because some people have asked me, well, what's in your soup and how do you make it? So this will be a video on making a soup that is H. pylori unfriendly and ulcer friendly. So first of all, let's start with the ingredients. So first of all, we start with potatoes, and I'm going to be using 3 large potatoes. And I used to use the smaller potatoes. And so what that works out to be is if you get a 5-pound bag, you use half of that. So basically the recipe is for 2.5 pounds of potatoes. And then also I'll be adding broccoli to this. Now something you need to know, broccoli, especially broccoli stems, there's some kind of nutrient or chemical in the stems that kills H. pylori. So remember that. And then the next ingredient will be peas. I use a half a bag of peas, and I don't have that sitting in here. I forgot to put it out, but they're in the freezer. So you use a half a bag of peas. And I'm saying this in the order that I cook them, and I'm going to show you that in a second. And then after that comes garlic, and I don't like peeling garlic. Call me lazy if you want to. So I buy this fresh peeled garlic, and in this bag there's smaller bags, which might be equivalent to like a clove, I think. And so I usually use now just 1, but there was a time when I was using 2 and 3 of those small bags, and I'll show you how much what that works out to be as I'm cooking. So anyway, so you want garlic, and then this is cabbage. So we're going to use, what I do is a normal size cabbage, I'll half it, and then for each recipe, each time I make the soup, I cut that half in thirds. So what does that work out to be? 1/6. So you use basically 1/6 of a cabbage. So and then also I use a yellow squash and a green squash, and I usually try to buy them a little bit small. That way I don't have to cut them and put like half back in the fridge. And so I'll buy them the right size that I need. This is a little bit big, but it's going to work. And then this is a kind of a small to medium small green squash. So I use a yellow and a green squash. And then finally, at the end is my meat. And I shop at Sprouts, and they sell this just shredded chicken. And you can call me lazy again if you want to, because I used to boil my own chicken and do all that. Oh my goodness. But see, now I've gotten to the point where I can make my soup in pretty much less than an hour. And the reason is because I do kind of cut corners like this. And so I buy this chicken that's already cooked, and I'm sure it's a little more expensive than buying a frozen chicken. But anyway, so I'm going to shred it's already called shredded, but I'm going to break this into smaller pieces and check for bones and all that, and get rid of the stuff that I don't want, because it's just pretty much, this is just pure white meat chicken. Sometimes I get the dark meat too. It has different nutrients in it, and that's fine. Sometimes you can get them mixed. So, but mostly I use the the breast meat of the chicken. And then this size, what I'll usually do, if I'm gonna use chicken only on my soup, then I'll get about 3/4 of a pound. But this time I'm going to be adding tuna to the soup, just for well, flavor. It tastes pretty good, but also just for the nutrients and everything. And I like eating salmon and tuna. Basically, the only meats that I eat are salmon, tuna, and chicken. I don't really eat any red meat. I have nothing against once in a while buying a little bit of beef, and instead of adding the tuna, I'll add 4 or 5 ounces. Like this is a 5-ounce can of tuna, so I'll add 5 ounces of beef instead of the chicken. But the thing you got to remember about beef and lamb, they taste real good in the soup, but they produce a lot more acid than these 3 meats, for example, chicken, tuna, and salmon. Just remember that if you're going to eat beef, you're going to suffer for it. You're going to get more acid in your stomach, and that goes for lamb as well. Pretty much any red meat, I'm sure. So, so what I'm going to do, so I buy this chicken. If I'm going to do chicken only, like I said, I'll get about 3/4 to close to a pound of chicken. But this time I bought about 2/3. About 2/3 of a pound of chicken, because I was planning on adding this 5 ounces of tuna. So it works out to be about 3/4 of a pound. If you get close to a pound, then you're going to have a little bit too much meat in your soup. So that's what I do for the meat. And there's Callie. She wants to get into the video. She's at my feet because she knows that when I make my soup, she gets usually some of this, the leftover of this chicken, or when I do the salmon, I buy the canned salmon, and she'll get some of those, the leftover pieces of the salmon too. So she really likes it when I make my soup, which is basically every 3 days, because I've worked it out, system. I make enough soup to last me 3 days. Now, let's turn over here, and this is the pot that I use. And I was trying to see any writing on this pot, and it didn't seem to have any writing on it. But I want to say this is a 4-quart pot, but please don't quote me on that. But I can tell you this: I fill it up probably about I think that's a little over an inch from the top from the rim. That's how much water I put in it. And when I use one of these bottled waters, with this bottled water filled all the way up to the top, it will pretty much fill this pot. So that's how much water I'm using. That's all I can tell you about the pot, because I don't know what size it is. So, and if you're thinking, wow, that's a lot of water to be making this soup, that's why I have this cup back here, because I'm going to be taking some of the water out, because I have found that as I'm making my soup, I lose a lot of water through the steam and evaporation, and that word escaped me for a minute. So I lose a lot of the water, the steam, as the steam is coming out, and so what I'll do is, as I add vegetables and it gets too full, I'll take some of the water out and put it into this cup, and then after the steam has lowered the level, then I'll actually put this water back in. And I've learned how to do that, and it makes it so that I can get a full 3 days out of this soup. So that's what I do. And you'll see here I have a ladle and my stirring spoon ready. And then I want to go ahead and turn this on high. And as this is starting to boil, I'm going to get my vegetables ready. Okay, so as you can see, I've got the stems and cut, and I've got the broccoli pieces broken up into smaller pieces. And one of the things I would want to say, I've just recently started doing broccoli. Broccoli for my stomach is a little hard to digest, even when I cook it. But especially raw. When I eat it raw, I actually get cramps. But also, instead of broccoli, for most of the time that I've been making my soup, I've been using celery instead of broccoli. So you can do that, or you can use a little bit of both. So basically, this is just about a full handful of broccoli, and then I've got my potatoes already peeled, and so we want to cube those. So basically, cut them in half again. So you're cutting them in quarters, and then cut them into basically cubes. Okay, so this is just about boiling. It's boiling at the bottom. It's not a full boil, but it's close enough. And so I am going to add the broccoli and the potatoes. Just those two items for now. Now I'm sure you've noticed that the potatoes and the broccoli pretty much filled this whole pot up. But if you're doing it the way I'm doing it, and you're following my directions exactly, don't panic, because remember, we're going to take some water out and put it into a separate cup, and then that'll leave room for the peas. And by the time that all boils, the water level will be down again so that we can add our other ingredients. One of the ingredients that I forgot to mention is that I also add oregano. And so you're going to see that I've named already 3 foods that are very unfriendly to H. pylori, but still friendly to an ulcer. You've got the broccoli, especially the broccoli stems, oregano, and garlic. All 3 of those foods are very unfriendly. In fact, they kill, in the right amount, they will actually kill H. pylori. Okay, so this is starting to boil again. And I've taken some of the water out and put it into the other cup. Which makes room for the peas. So I use organic peas. I try to do organic in pretty much every way, but not always. So basically, I'm just going to pour in half of this bag of peas. Just kind of eyeball it. Okay, so a half a bag of a 16-ounce bag of peas. So that's a half a pound. Well, 16 ounces is a pound. I put in half a pound. Okay, so now that stopped the boil. So I want to get it to boil again, and then it'll be ready for the other vegetables, which you can see I'm preparing over here. Now some of you may be asking, do I add salt? I don't. There's quite a bit of salt in peas, and like I said, usually I've been using celery. There's a lot of salt in celery. And so no, I don't add extra salt. Maybe in the middle of summer when I'm working out in the sun, I might add a little bit of salt to this soup. But I have other things that I eat throughout the course of the day. One of them is peanut butter, which is very high in salt, and I eat. I've started recently eating bread again, which probably has quite a bit of salt. So other things in my diet have the salt that I need. So I really, virtually in my diet, don't eat any extra salt. Okay, so this has started to boil again. And so now I'm going to be adding garlic, cabbage, yellow squash, green squash. Now I was going to tell you that I peel my squash, and you don't have to if you don't want to, but if you're going to do that, make sure you wash it real good. And buy organic if you can, so you can avoid the pesticides, which are most likely sprayed on the outside of these squash. So in goes the yellow squash and the green squash, cabbage, garlic. And I forgot to tell you that as soon as it starts to boil with the peas, immediately turn it off. And you won't be turning it on anymore. The water is hot enough that it's going to, without actually having the burner on, it will cook the squash, the garlic, and the cabbage. So you don't need to apply any more heat. So I'm going to be adding some oregano now, and this is organic oregano leaf. Now I mentioned earlier that oregano kills H. pylori. Now you'll have to research this for yourself. I really don't know how much oregano leaf it would take to really make an impact on H. pylori, because really it's the oregano oil that kills H. pylori. And so anyway, so I'm just going to sprinkle some of this in here. Not too much, otherwise the flavor will dominate your soup. Even that much, it's going to be pretty strong. So that's it. The burner is off, and all the ingredients are in the soup except for the meat. So we're just going to let this simmer. And when I say simmer, I mean really sit, because like I said, the heat is off. And while it's simmering in here and continuing to cook, I'm going to get the meat ready. So the soup is simmering, and as I said, I got the meat ready. So I have in this bowl about 2/3 pound of chicken, and then a 5-ounce can of tuna. And also, as I said earlier, the reason you hear Callie in the background is because she knows that it's time for her treat. Whenever I prepare the chicken, I always make her a little bowl. So this has a little bit of chicken in it, and then I put some of the tuna in for flavor. Callie, you want a treat? You want a treat? Huh? You want a treat? Okay. Here we go. Come on. There you go. Okay, so about an hour has passed by, and you'll see that this has been simmering without heat for all that time, and enough water has evaporated so that now I can add the meat. So I've got my chicken and tuna, and so I just dump it right in there. Now this bowl for the past hour has been in the refrigerator, so this chicken and tuna has pretty much cooled. So it's going to cool the soup off quite a bit. And then as soon as it's completely cool, then I'll get my Tupperware dish, which I have ready over here, and I'm going to take out enough for tomorrow's lunch and put it in here, and then add the water back in also. And so I'm going to be making tomorrow's lunch, and then the rest of it I'll put the lid on and stick it in the refrigerator. And so that will last me exactly 3 days. And as you can see, let's see if I can zoom in here a little bit. This is a real good soup. Tastes good, very healthy, doesn't produce a lot of acid in your stomach, which is the whole point, and got some ingredients in there that kills H. pylori. So there you go. That's how to make that soup. So thanks for joining me today, and I hope this video has been a help and a blessing to you. If it has, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, and also share this video to those people who are infected with the H. pylori bacteria, and or are also suffering from symptoms of an ulcer. And also, I might add, gets rid of acid reflux, because the acid goes down and your ulcer will get better, and acid reflux is a thing of the past. 5 years ago, before I actually got the ulcer and the H. pylori, I had acid reflux all the time, and now haven't had acid reflux probably in over 4 years. So there you go. It works, believe me. So so share this video. I'm so happy that you were able to watch, and hope this is a help. So God bless you, and I'll see you next time.